Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of I Would Agree. I'm going to have to make an apology to everybody who watches me on the screen today. Like, if you see me moving about a lot and trying to get comfortable, I've got a pulled muscle in my right shoulder and I'm trying to make sure that I sit still, but it's quite hard when you're sat in an office chair at home all day when you work from home. So bear with me. Today's guest, I'm pleased to bring along our good friend, Gary Gormley. Hi,
Hello.
Gary. Nice to meet you again.
Hello. I share your pain, Paul, because I've literally pulled my back recently, so I know exactly how bad it is sitting there, grinning through the pain, gurning through the pain in my mind.
It's the old man's club, unfortunately, I think. I'm just going to have to admit it. At least you've got hair, though, Gary.
That's the last thing to disappear on my head, but lots of ear hair and nose hair and stuff, so that's catching up fast too.
Great to have you along, Gary. Obviously we're working in partnership now between the Modular Analytics Company and Fab Solutions, but I've noticed that you've changed your job title slightly, Gary. Fab Group, what's that about?
Have it. Very perceptive of you, Paul. Very perceptive. So Fab Solutions is has had a little love child. It's born itself into multiples now. So Fab Solutions, when I set it up 3 years ago, it was set up as a contact center consultancy, helping contact centers improve process improvement, customer experience, leadership development, and training. And one of the things that came out quite often when I was speaking to clients and doing various different diagnostics and helping them walk through processes and look at customer journeys was the need for outsourcing some of their activity and some of their issues and some of the problems. And over the course of that 3 years, I've always had in the back of my mind is how do I capitalize on that outsourced opportunity, and at what point do I start to venture into the world of outsourcing, and how do I bring back the passion that I had for running a contact center? And not so long ago, the love child that was born was Fab Outsource Solutions. So it makes sense now to have the two businesses under one, Fab umbrella, which is the Fab Group. So yeah,
absolutely fabulous, eh? Fantastic.
Absolutely fabulous. Wheels on fire.
Yeah. He's the sort of guy you can fall down the stairs and not spill a drop of his champagne.
Not sure about that. How clumsy I am. It's like spill everything and yours.
So those of you watching will probably know Gary from his monthly networking events. He's quite active on LinkedIn. See quite a lot of them. But often, like, I see Gary as being the person that's on my end of the seat, my end of the desk, in terms of being the show host and the networking organizer. So Gary, this is your turn to kind of be the guest on the show. How did you get involved with contact centers in the first place? Let's go right back. Where did it start?
You know what? It was absolutely purely by accident. So I first started life out in the Golden Arches, working flipping burgers for a living, and I really enjoyed that, actually. I mean, people give McDonald's a hard time for jobs and for its culture and things, but actually it's got a brilliant culture. It's got a brilliant training platform, and I really enjoyed it. It was a good few years of my life, but I got a little bit bored of flipping burgers and managing people that really didn't want to be there, and kind of strolled in at like 7:05 in the morning when I'd been there since about 4:30 in the morning preparing for the restaurant. And I took a side detour into retail and grocery retail that you'll be very aligned with, in Quick Save. And there is a reason why that shop doesn't exist anymore. And that's half the reason why I then took a very quick detour and back out of it. And I ended up working for Bupa Healthcare. I was like, I need a job. What can I do? So I got in touch with the recruitment company, and they put me through an assessment center for a contact center role in Bupa. So it was there that I first found my passion for sales, for one, and contact centers. And I stayed there for probably too long, to be fair, before I made the bold move to set up my own business, helping contact centers fix some of the problems that I used to put my head through a brick wall doing, thinking there's got to be a better way of doing this. So, yeah, I spent a lot of time in various different areas of the contact center world. Did a stint in sales, customer retention, account management, IT, operations, wellness, fitness, all kind of different stuff. So donned various different hats, doing different areas and different roles in the contact center. So really quite a rounded view. But yeah, it was actually purely by accident because I needed a job.
Do you know, I think a lot of people have said the same thing, both about retail and contact centers, tend to find that they're two industries, and over again, I'll say this again, like they're very, very much aligned in their problems because they're very people oriented, and the same sort of people fall into both industries. Not many people go into either intentionally, but once they do get there, they tend to stay for a length of time. And you do find a lot of crossover between the two industries. Actually, a lot of people who start off in retail end up in contact centers and vice versa, even within the same business. You know, I've seen quite a lot of people who move between the two. One of my thoughts on that would be that contact centers specifically are very much open to lots of different avenues for where they can resource their staff from. Is that something that you've experienced? Is that something you see as being, does it work quite well when they do come from other industries and bring other skills and talents?
You know what? It's always nice to have people from different warps of life, whether you're fresh out of school or whether you're from hospitality or whether you're from different sectors that have been in the contact center industry, just a different slant. So it's always nice for people to bring those different skills because you've got lots of opportunity to transfer those skills. So customer service is a great one. Retail is a great one, from being on the shop floor, dealing with customers, to then transferring that in terms of customer care into how you speak to people on the phone.
Yeah.
So I think it can really be advantageous for people who are recruiting for different roles to recruit from different pools. I think we used to try and, I suppose sometimes we used to get stuck in that if you've not got contact center experience, we might not recruit you. And the only reason being is because sometimes people don't understand how stressful the contact center role can be. And people think, oh, well, you're not going to be on the phone 7 hours a day, are you? Well, actually, sometimes you are constantly walking around with a headset strapped to your head. So it's not for everybody, but it's a really rewarding job for those people that are really customer driven, customer focused, want to make a difference, want to work in a team, want a nice, fast-paced environment. So people like retail, fast food, and all that kind of works well because they're from that kind of environment where you roll your sleeves up and you get the job done. So recruiting from different industries is always useful, but there is always sometimes that, God, what have I just signed up to?
Yeah, it's like it's very much true. I think there are a lot of businesses that kind of sugarcoat it a little bit, and they're their own worst enemy because, to your point, you'll get people through the doors that see what they want in the role, but not the actual reality that it becomes. But I think, you're right. Ultimately, it's very much like discount retail specifically. It's very much sink or swim. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of plates to spin. It can be really, really mentally and physically tough. But I think you're right. Ultimately, if you're the sort of person that can get through that, then it is a really rewarding role. But I think a lot of the time, I think it's safe to say that, like, you've got to take rewards from your own work as opposed to expecting to be recognised specifically. I think if you're the sort of person that needs to be recognised, then you kind of find that tough. Yeah. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of recognition that happens in contact centres, and it's interesting. I've just been on a webinar. We've talked about culture and leadership in contact centres, and we talked about how you reward some of the human behaviours rather than it always being about KPIs and metrics and sales targets and all that kind of stuff. But there are different ways to reward and incentivize and manage people and motivate people. And you get a lot of that in contact centers. But what I find is the most rewarding thing about working in a contact center, where I think sometimes it goes maybe misrepresented is that there's lots of opportunity for career development and loads of different career pathways within a contact center, whereas most people see it as an entry-level role that they do as a stopgap, but it needn't be like that because there's so many different careers that you can have in contact centers. It's untrue.
Do you think a lot of contact centers have structure in place to make it clear to the teams, like how they can get promoted or like what their career path is and how they get from A to Z? Or is it very much kind of piecemeal as you go along?
Do you know what? I think it's hit and miss depending upon the contact center that you work for. I think it's probably a lot clearer in more regulated contact center businesses because they're more structured with job profiles, job roles, different areas and bigger functions. So you can more clearly see those transition periods. But perhaps for the smaller or more mid-sized contact centers, it might be a little bit more blurred, and it might sometimes feel like you only get promoted if your face fits. But I think the beauty of the contact center is you can create mentor roles, you can create coach roles, you can create deputy team leader roles, senior leader roles that look after managers. So there's quite easily at a very mid-level lots of opportunities to do different things over and above just spending your time on a call center. It's just you need some of that structure or some of that thought to say, how do we create career pathways? There might not necessarily be a natural fit from team leader to frontline agent. You can create those interim steps in terms of mentoring roles and coaching roles that allow you to still feel valued and still feel like you're being progressed, even if there isn't a direct leap into that straight away. But yeah, I think so. I think there's bags of opportunity for people that want to develop their career. There is a wealth of opportunities within contact centers.
So I wonder, it's kind of a two-pronged question then. First of all, as a small starting out outsourcer yourself, who are going through those pains, how hard are you finding it, / do you expect to find the staff that you want? And how are you dealing with, as a small business, kind of laying out those same expectations? How are you looking at defining those career paths? Or is that kind of next week's problems as such, but not
well, it would be an absolutely dream of a problem to have. But when you set up life as an outsourcer, and I've been on both sides of the line with this, you've got opportunities to, depend upon the size of the operation that you're picking up, whether you're doing 10, 15, 20, 30 seats, you've still got the opportunity to create quality assurance roles. You've still got the opportunity to build in sales coach roles, team leader roles. The spans of control typically in outsourcing are probably around 1 to 15 sometimes. So actually having a good solid deputy in there can be really robust in terms of helping you set up that operation. So there's definite opportunities quite early on to create those roles, and whether you do that internally or you recruit directly for them. And I think the recruitment, I mean, contact centers, you typically tend to recruit in volume anyway, especially in the outsourcing business. But what we've seen, I suppose, over the last 2 years is a big pull to the contact center industry from a younger demographic, but also that demographic shifted from people who wanted more flexibility with working based on the fact that they could work from home. So you've now got a slightly older demographic moving into the contact center space. So dependent upon what your recruitment strategy is, and whether you're working from home, hybrid, or on-site bricks and mortar, which Fab Outsource Solutions can support all three, it gives you that flexibility to recruit the best people and give you less of a headache in how to then get the right volume. So we pride ourselves on having access to a wealth of recruiters in the contact center space who we can trust to deliver the right volume of candidates at the right time for the client's needs. So it's tough, don't get me wrong, but if you've got the right recruitment partners in place and you've got the right culture that you push out that attracts people to those roles, it makes it easier.
Cool, good answer. I like it.
Thank you.
Quick question by Michaela there in the comments. She's saying that she's been registered as her own contact center for over 2 years now, and she's struggling with getting legitimate clients. There's a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of fraud going on, and she's tempted to kind of give up on the whole thing. What would be your thoughts and guidance to Michaela? Is there any sort of ways that she can help drum up business without putting herself at risk?
I would say, first things first, drop me a message, Michaela. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn and let's have a chat about it in a bit more detail. But firstly, I would say be clear as to who you want to do business with. What are the markets and the verticals that you want to operate in? Are you looking for outbound campaigns? Are you looking for inbound customer service? Are you offering web chat as an outsourcer? Are you looking to monitor and increase the number of QA interventions that you do for clients? And be really clear as to the problem that you want to help for those contact centers. And I'm going through that whole piece at the moment to say, who do we want to work with? Actually, we're being quite bold in our ambitions to say, right, we've got some real big brands that we're aiming for because we know we can help them. And between me and my business partner, Al Hughes, we've got a significant amount of experience with us where we know we can add value to contact centers that are either currently outsourcing with somebody else or are looking to venture into the outsourcing market. But you've got to be really clear as to the proposition that you offer and how you offer that. But surround yourself with some really good people. I've got a great network with people such as yourself, other people in the outsourcing industry, other people in the recruitment industry that can help direct and refer people to you. So, yes, you're going to get people chancing their arm, but I think if you've got a good network around you, they will help support you in the right way.
So I think I think it's fair. Like, you can't boil the ocean. I think a lot of people try and do that, no matter what business they're in, to be fair. I mean, we certainly almost went down that avenue ourselves at one point, because even though we're specifically contact center related in terms of our software, like, there isn't an industry that is, singled out by how they can be helped by our technologies. We could go to travel and tourism as easy as we can deal with insurance and banking. And for us, we had to get to that crunch point where we said, here are the 3 industries we want to focus on, at this moment in time, and then we'll expand outwards, because I think there is a real danger that you can just end up casting your net out to see what comes back, and that does tend to bring back the sharks as well as the fish.
Yeah, and if you're all things to all men, you end up being all things to no one. And I think if you're, I specifically said I help contact centers because that's what I know and that's what I understand. But when I first set up as Fab Solutions, I was like, I can help anybody. And guess what? Nobody came knocking. And I was really confused about the messages that I was putting out, the pain points and the challenges that my ideal clients were facing. But as soon as I kind of started thinking, right, what is it that I know? What is it that I knew as an operational leader was a big challenge? It really helps you get back on that playing field that your clients are operating in, and it allows you to be a bit more bolder in some of the things that you say you can do and how you can help because you've done it before.
Yeah, I think there's an element of being able to bring their pain points to life, and if you don't have a specific person in mind that you're aiming the post at, how can you kind of bring their pain points to life? Because not everybody.
And I talk really passionately about what I do because I know the problems and the issues that the people that I help have faced, because I've been in their shoes. I've been in that place where I want to put my head through a brick wall because I've had another quality assurance fail come through, and I've got to go and break that bad news to somebody who's potentially going to lose a load of bonus as a result of it. I've been in that position where I've had to tell my boss that, yeah, we've got a double-digit abandonment rate, and this is what we're doing about it, and this is how we're trying to fix it. So you know what those problems are, and you know what levers you can pull because you've pulled them. Not always successfully, might I add, but you know what you can and can't do, and you understand the landscape that you're working in, which then helps you talk the right language to people and helps you resonate and empathize with their position, but also helps you create the right solutions that will fix those problems that you're trying to fix.
There's another great point there from Keel, just coming back to the people side of things as well. Keel's kind of indicating like staff attrition and churn in contact centers is a huge problem, and probably, I would imagine, made all the more worse by the pandemic, and as Jimmy hates me calling it, the great resignation, or the great opportunity, as we might like to rephrase it. So a question that I've often asked, that nobody really seems to have a conclusive answer to, Gary, is it even worth worrying about staff attrition as things stand at the moment, or is it just a case of you give your people the best experience you can in the hopes that, like, acknowledging that they're going to leave at some point in the hope that they'll come back with more experience than they left you with?
You know what? I always go to a nice Richard Branson quote when I think about this, and you probably know it. It's train people well enough that they can do the job to the best of their ability, and then treat them well enough that they want to stay with you. So it's train people well enough that they can leave, is the quote, and then treat them well enough that they want to stay. And I think that's all you can do. I mean, I would always look at your attrition as both positive and negative attrition. So what's the positive attrition, i.e. people that have left a department and then moved into a different department? So you're backfilling for somebody who's an internal promotion or something. The negative attrition is the stuff that somebody's left for a particular reason. So I'd always encourage people to be doing staff surveys once they've left, and doing those generally through HR, because you're going to get a more honest response. But it's measuring the tenure of those people that are leaving as well. If you've got a load of people that are leaving within 3 to 6 months, chances are your recruitment strategy isn't right, and that you've not recruited the right person in the first place, and you weren't clear about the role, you weren't clear about the expectations, the targets, the environment. And then if you've got more longer tenured people leaving, then that's where I start to worry a little bit, is to say, right, if you've got more people that are leaving that have experience, why are they leaving? And is that because they just naturally want to move into different areas? So the great opportunities you've talked about might mean I've suddenly had an evaluation in life and I want to go do something different. Or is there something culturally in the organization that is driving those people out, that might be something that we need to be standing up and taking notice of?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an issue now that's come to light, and it's kind of spawned by the whole remote working and hybrid working, is that once upon a time, if you worked in a contact center, the only other contact centers you could work in were the other local contact centers. So people tended to live in hubs like Manchester, the Northeast, Wales is another one. There's lots of hubs throughout the country where there's a lot of contact centers in the vicinity. But now, one, it doesn't even matter if you live near a contact center half the time, and two, even if you do, what's to stop you going to somebody that you've never worked for before on the South Coast somewhere and trying your hand with them? So I guess, yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I don't think there's an easy answer to it, but I think for me, like, it kind of goes back to that being clear about the progression path for people, so that those that want to. And the other danger that we've kind of sometimes fall into as well is keeping people in a role because they're good at it, not because it's the best thing for them. And that's a hard one to break, because sometimes that takes a separate set of eyes. Would you say?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there are some people that just love the job and they like doing the same job for a number of years. I know loads of people that have been in jobs for like 20 years because they actually like the job and they don't want to do anything else. So we can sometimes be mindful of, as team leaders or operational leaders, come on, you need to develop, you need to move on, you need to do something. You can't stay in this role for the rest of your life. Of course they can. If they want to do it, why not? As long as those people don't sour into negative attitudes and negative beliefs and negative mindsets, then stay in that role. Partner that person with every new person that comes in, because that's a testament as to how good this organization is, that person's decided that they want to stay there for 20 years. It's when they stay there for 20 years because they feel like they've got no other choice, but then whinge and complain and moan about the job and the organization and the culture. That's when, for me, that potentially becomes a problem.
Yeah, I think when I think back to kind of experiences that I'd been through, I remember those people that kind of sat there and mentored me, and they weren't team leaders. They were more than happy to sit and do that side by side coaching. I suspect that's probably not as much a thing now as it ever used to be, but certainly in on-site coaching, it's a great alternative route. I think sometimes there's an element of people don't actually know what's best for them either. Like, they'll want to stay in that role, or they think they want to stay in that role, and they're not willing to get out of their comfort zone and try other things. And sometimes it takes that team leader to say, do you know what, today you're going to go and sit over there in that team and you're going to monitor their calls and actually just see whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got to push people out of their comfort zone.
You know what? We don't really, in my view, invest enough in team leaders being able to have more rounded coaching conversations with people. We tend to focus on, we'll give them a coaching methodology like GROW, and then what you'll typically hear in the call center is, right, we're using GROW to reduce your AHT. So the goal is we need to get you down to this AHT. The reality is you're here. What can you do to reduce your AHT? Rather than, okay, where do you want to be in a year, 2 years, 3 years time? Okay, where are you now? What skills have you got? What skills do you think those types of roles might require you to have? How do we then build your skill set up? And what are you going to do to actually drive yourself towards applying for that if a role comes up? You don't typically hear those conversations as much by team leaders, because we don't necessarily train team leaders to have those more rounded coaching conversations. We'll give them the model and then focus it all on KPIs and metrics rather than the fluffier stuff around people development. Or the reverse happens and we just then clobber everybody over the head with everybody's got to have a development action plan to move them into a different role in 12 months. And then that becomes equally as counterproductive as anything else. Like, I don't want to move role. I don't want to do anything different. You've got to. It's part of my development action plan. I've got to develop you. You end up in this.
Set a target.
Yes, set a target on coaching sessions for development. Like, great.
Yeah. I think we've got time for one last question before we wrap things up, Gary. It's a question from Altaf. So, while contact centers are a human-intensive industry, given the churn that we're seeing, what are your thoughts around conversational AI bots taking over tasks that could reduce number of human resources?
So, what are my thoughts? So I'm gathering them as we speak. So AI and chatbots are very useful tools in order to manage demand. And nobody is saying that we should be using AI and chatbots to replace humans. I think what we're saying is AI, chatbots, and good journeys like that will complement the contact center in managing demand. So for me, I see these things as, how do we deflect demand away from an agent that they don't necessarily need to have to deal with, to improve the customer experience, to make it more accessible for customers, and to actually help agents spend more time on more meaningful conversations with customers. Because there's this whole demand spiral that happens when we're in the contact center and you're looking at the clock and it's flashing red because you've got so many calls in queue, when actually what the customer might just needed to have had is a really good self-serve tool, really good chatbot inquiry that sent them to the FAQs that have helped them with the problem that they had. Instead, they've queued for 10, 15 minutes to ask a question that could have been a transactional one that we didn't need to. So I think it's about harmonizing that process to say, where we can, let's automate and build intelligent tools that can help deflect demand away from agents that can be used for more value-adding conversations with your vulnerable customers, with your proactive outbound conversations, with your proactive telemarketing and lead generation. So we're doing more things that can add value rather than dealing with things that we don't necessarily need to. So it's about making the customer's journey more simplistic and easier to transact with us, but making the agent conversations more value-adding to the people that need it the most. I
think as an add-on from my side of things, being as we're an AI-based company, people are often quite surprised that our stance is quite often not the chatbot side of things. Like it's not our first protocol, and we don't recommend people go there straight away. Because the other thing that you've got to think about when you look at AI chatbots or any kind of chatbot, not particularly picking on AI chatbots to be fair, but the sorts of conversations that you're deflecting to those chatbots are the sort of conversations that generally have positive sentiment or neutral sentiment. Therefore, they're also the sorts of conversations where you could be cross-selling and upselling or delivering an excellent customer experience for that customer. So whilst there is a cheaper alternative, tentatively, in the initial, if you're pushing off the wrong sorts of valuable content into those chatbots just to deflect from your humans, then what you're actually doing is sacrificing your lifetime value of your customer. And that will be seen as you get 6 to 12 months into the use of it. So my advice for that would be to be really careful with it.
Yeah, and 100% review the transcripts of those conversations to see if there is missed opportunity. And actually, are the chatbots doing what we want them to be doing, and are they deflecting the right things to the right, or are we just exasperating customers that they just disconnect and ring us? So always use the insights that are available from any of your automated tools, be it an AI chatbot or a transcript from a web chat or any other means for that matter. So all data is king.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much to the audience who've been watching today for your questions. Sometimes we get some great interactions from the audience. Sometimes we get not so much.
Yes, really good questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for your questions and comments. And Gary, been great to have you on the show. Thanks very much for coming along.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
All the best of success for the coming months. It sounds very exciting. Hopefully we'll be
lots of sleepless nights, but yeah, if anybody would be interested in a conversation, just connect, click the little bell in the corner and follow the content. Hopefully it'll be something useful.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for coming along. Just as a note for everybody who normally attends on a regular basis, next Thursday there won't be a LinkedIn Live. I am on annual leave. And the problem with a live event is you can't pre-record them for put up later on. So you'll have to miss me for a week, unfortunately, everyone. But I will see you the week after, where we talk to Matthew Walsh, our episode called Blue Suede Shoes. Let's see what that's about. See you soon, everyone. Thanks. Bye.
Take care, folks.